Hong Kong, October 1972. The kind of afternoon where the humidity makes everything feel slightly more serious than it would elsewhere. The air thick and warm, the city outside going about its business while inside the Kowloon Athletic Association building something is happening that the 700 people present will be talking about for decades. Bruce Lee arrived 20 minutes ago with Chuck Norris a half step behind him. They came in through the side entrance, which Bruce prefers when he can manage it, because the main entrance at events like this produces the kind of reception that makes actual watching difficult. The Federation coordinator had held 2 seats along the left wall in the 3rd row, good seats with clear sight lines to the central demonstration floor, and Bruce and Chuck settled into them without ceremony. Chuck is wearing a plain navy windbreaker and a cap pulled low, which achieves a reasonable degree of anonymity. Bruce is in a dark turtleneck, which achieves nothing in terms of anonymity, but which Bruce has stopped trying to achieve at Hong Kong martial arts events because Hong Kong recognizes him the way cities recognize their own regardless of what he wears. The demonstration has been running for an hour. Interclub event. The Hong Kong Martial Arts Federation's autumn gathering, the one occasion where schools that would normally compete against each other share the same floor in the same building and demonstrate what they have been working on. Hungar, Wing Chun, Choi Lei Foot, Northern Praying Mantis. Every major lineage represented. The audience is dense with practitioners, senior instructors in the front rows, students filling the back, press from 2 martial arts magazines along the right wall. Bruce has been watching everything with the quality of attention he brings to this kind of event, which is the attention of a man who loves his subject and has never stopped being a student of it, regardless of what the world thinks he has become. Chuck watches differently with the focused assessment of a competitor reading opponents, cataloging techniques, measuring what he sees against what he knows. On the demonstration floor, Bolo Yeung is working. His full name is Yang and Hong Kong knows him as Bolo, and what Hong Kong means when it uses that name is something specific. The bodybuilding champion of the city, 26 years old, built in a way that makes the phrase physically impressive feel insufficient. He stands at 5'10" and 218 pounds of muscle that is functional rather than decorative, the product of 12 years of serious training in Southern Kung Fu combined with a dedication to physical conditioning that is genuinely extraordinary. He has been demonstrating for the past 15 minutes against 3 different partners from 3 different styles, and what he has shown is real technique applied with real power, the combination that makes serious practitioners in the audience nod at each other, with the acknowledgement of people who recognize genuine work. His current partner is a Choi Lei Foot stylist named Chen, faster than the previous 2, lighter on his feet, presenting a different kind of problem. Bolo adjusts to him the way good practitioners adjust, reading the different speed, changing the timing, finding what works rather than forcing what he has already prepared. When Chen commits to a high kick, Bolo catches the leg, sweeps the base, and Chen lands flat on the wooden floor with a sound that carries to the back wall. Chen gets up. Bolo nods, Chen nods back. The exchange between them has the specific quality of respect that comes from 2 people who have genuinely tested each other. The audience applauds, not politely, with knowledge. This is a room full of people who understand what they just watched, and their appreciation has the weight of expertise behind it. Bruce is nodding from the 3rd row. Chuck has not moved, which means Chuck is impressed because Chuck's stillness at martial arts events is proportional to his interest. The Federation chairman, a small Wing Chun Sifu in his 60s named Master Ho, walks onto the floor with the microphone. He thanks Bolo. He thanks the partners. He begins to introduce the next school. Bolo raises one hand. Master Ho looks at him. Bolo extends his hand for the microphone. Master Ho hesitates for a moment, doing the calculation that event organizers do when unexpected things are requested by popular performers on their program. He hands it over. Bolo speaks first in Cantonese. The room responds with the warm laughter of a crowd that loves its hometown champion. Then he switches to English, and the switch tells everyone in the room that what follows is aimed at someone specific, and heads begin to turn. He says he has heard there is a famous martial artist visiting Hong Kong this week. He says he has followed this man's career with interest. He says he has watched films with admiration. He pauses on admiration in a way that gives it a slight edge, the pause of someone who is about to complicate an apparent compliment. Then he says Bruce Lee's name. He says that what he sees in Bruce Lee's films is extraordinary, that the movement is genuine and the technique is real, and anyone who says otherwise is not looking carefully. He says all of this with what sounds like sincerity, and the room is listening carefully because the build is clearly going somewhere. Then he says that films are films, that the camera makes decisions about what is shown and what is not, that controlled demonstrations in front of cooperative partners are controlled demonstrations in front of cooperative partners. He says that in Hong Kong, the real test has always been the floor, not the screen, and that the floor is right here, and he is standing on it, and he has a question. He turns and he points at the third row. "Mr. Bruce," he says in English, loud enough for the room to follow, "in your films you are untouchable. You move like nobody I have ever seen. I respect this completely." He pauses, "But I am not a camera. I am not a cooperative partner. I am standing on this floor right now, and I would knock you out in 10 seconds. 700 people make the sound that 700 people make when something has been said in public. That crossed a line everyone in the room can see clearly. The press row is already focused on Bruce. The senior instructors in the front rows have turned. Every person in the building is looking at the third row where Bruce Lee is sitting with his hands resting on his knees and his expression revealing nothing that he has not chosen to reveal. Chuck leans over. He says something quietly that only Bruce hears. Bruce listens, then he looks at the demonstration floor. At Bolo standing there with the microphone and the certainty of a man who has just said something public that cannot be taken back. Bruce stands up. The reaction moves through the room instantly. Not from recognition, everyone here already knew Bruce was present, but from understanding. Bruce Lee is standing up. Bruce Lee is walking toward the floor. Whatever this is, it is happening, it is real. And 700 martial artists who came here for an interclub demonstration are about to witness something else entirely. He walks down the row past the senior instructors who make space without being asked. He steps onto the demonstration floor. He is wearing dark clothes and he looks exactly like a person who was watching a martial arts demonstration, because that is what he was, and the contrast with Bolo's oiled and conditioned 218 pounds is visible and real, and the room registers it with the specific attention of people who understand that what they are about to see will not be determined by what they are currently looking at. Master Ho steps toward Bruce with the expression of an event organizer who has completely lost control of his event and is trying to decide whether to intervene or document. He says Bruce's name. Bruce looks at him with the calm of someone who has already decided what is happening and does not need the decision revisited. "Light contact," Bruce says. "Demonstration terms." Master Ho nods because there is nothing else to do. Bruce walks to the center of the floor and stops 8 feet from Bolo. They look at each other. Bolo is 6 inches taller and 78 pounds heavier and has just said publicly that he would knock Bruce out in 10 seconds, and standing here with Bruce Lee in front of him, he has the expression of a man whose public commitment is real and who has no intention of retreating from it. Bruce is reading. This is what he does before any physical exchange. He reads the person across from him the way serious practitioners read situations, not for what is obvious but for what is true underneath what is obvious. What he reads is genuine. Real training, real power, real technique built over a long time with serious dedication. He also reads something else, the specific quality of someone who has spent their career as the most physically formidable person in every room they have entered and who has built assumptions on that foundation that have never been seriously tested. Bolo hands the microphone back to Master Ho. Master Ho steps to the side. He says the words he has to say about the demonstration being light contact and non-injurious, and he says them with the expression of a man who knows the words are correct and necessary, and also knows they will not fully describe what is about to happen. "Whenever you are ready," Bruce says. Bolo moves first. He comes forward with the hung gar entry that has worked for him all afternoon, the wide southern stance, the bridge strike loaded and ready, 218 pounds of committed forward motion that has put 2 experienced practitioners on the floor in the last 20 minutes. Genuinely fast for his size and his build, which is what 12 years of serious training produces. He comes forward with real intention. Bruce moves at a 45-degree angle, not backward, sideways, a step that removes him from the path of everything Bolo's forward momentum was aimed at. As Bolo's lead shoulder passes him, Bruce's right hand comes out and touches Bolo's forearm, not a strike, a placement, a point of contact that redirects Bolo's momentum half a degree without stopping it, and Bolo's committed forward drive carries him 2 steps past where Bruce was standing. 3 seconds, Bolo resets. He is not rattled. He is too experienced to be rattled by missing. He adjusts and comes again, this time with the southern hook that put Lamb against the wall earlier, the technique loaded from the hip with full torso rotation behind it, the technique that carries the weight of 12 years of horse stance conditioning. Bruce slips it. His head moves 4 inches to the right. The hook passes through the air where his jaw was a moment earlier, and as Bolo's torso completes the rotation, Bruce's left hand touches his shoulder lightly. Another placement, another demonstration of exactly where Bolo's committed technique leaves him open. Bolo pulls back. His expression has changed, not fear. Something more specific, the focused recalibration of a serious practitioner who has encountered something their training did not fully prepare them for and who is trying to identify what it is. The 700 people in the room have gone very quiet. The senior instructors in the front rows are watching with the specific attention of people who can see what is happening technically and who understand its significance. The students in the back are watching with the simpler attention of people who know something important is happening without yet fully understanding what it is. Bolo changes approach. He closes distance with both hands reaching, trying to establish contact, trying to use his physical advantages in a way that requires actually getting his hands on Bruce rather than sending techniques toward him. He lunges, committed, everything behind it. Bruce steps inside, not back, not sideways, forward, which is the answer that Bolo's lunge does not prepare for. And Bolo's grab closes on empty air over Bruce's shoulder. Bruce's hand comes up, palm open, and places itself lightly against Bolo's throat. A placement. Held for one count, the open palm against the throat of a man with an 18-inch neck, touching it with less force than a handshake, demonstrating with complete clarity exactly where Bolo's committed technique has left him. 10 seconds total. Bruce holds the palm for one count, then he lowers it, he steps back, his hands come down to his sides. He looks at Bolo with an expression that contains no triumph and no condescension and no performance of any kind, just the calm of someone who has answered a question that was asked. The room is silent for 3 full seconds. Then the senior Hungar Sifu in the front row stands up. He begins to applaud. The Wing Chun Sifu beside him stands. The press row stands. Row by row, 700 people in the Kowloon Athletic Association building rise and give Bruce Lee the applause that the room gives when it has watched something it will be discussing for years. In the third row, Chuck Norris has not moved. He watches Bruce walk back across the floor with the expression of a man who expected exactly this and found it satisfying, not because he was right, but because what is right has been demonstrated. Bolo stands in the center of the floor. He is breathing harder than he was 30 seconds ago. He looks at the microphone in Master Ho's hand for a moment. Then he walks across the floor to where Bruce has stopped at the edge. Bolo bows. It is not the bow of martial arts ritual, the formal acknowledgement of an exchange. It is a different bow. The bow a person gives when something real has passed between them and language is not adequate to carry it. Bruce returns it. Master Ho stands at the microphone making the announcement that the program will continue, and the program does continue, and the Northern Praying Mantis demonstration happens and the other schools take their turns on the floor, but every person in the building knows that the demonstration ended 10 seconds ago, and everything that follows is something else. That evening, 3 men sit at a corner table in a restaurant on Nathan Road. Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Bolo Yeung. They eat and they talk, and the conversation has the quality that conversations have when the people in them have been through something together that redistributed the usual social weights. Bolo asks Chuck about American tournament structure, about what the point systems is actually measuring and what it is not measuring. Chuck answers honestly, the way he always answers questions about his own discipline, which is with the specific knowledge of someone who has both succeeded within a system and thought seriously about its limitations. Chuck asks Bolo about the horse stance conditioning, about what 12 years of serious Hungar does to the lower body, about the mechanical difference between generating power from that base versus generating it from a more mobile stance. Bolo answers with the patience of someone who loves his subject and is talking to someone worth explaining it to. Bruce sits between them and translates when the English runs out, which it does periodically, and the translation has a quality of care in it, making sure what Bolo means reaches Chuck and what Chuck means reaches Bolo, not just the words but the actual meaning underneath them. At one point Bolo asks, through Bruce, the question he could not ask on the demonstration floor. He asks what Bruce was looking at during those 10 seconds, not at his techniques, not at his hands, obviously not at his size. What was he actually looking at? Bruce thinks about this before answering. He says he was looking at Bolo's shoulders. He says the shoulders carry the intention of the body before the body has expressed it, that in the half second before a technique commits, the shoulders have already said where the technique is going and how it is loaded. He says that half second is all the time he needed. Bolo does not say anything for a long time. He is sitting with this, working it through, checking it against his internal experience of what he was doing and what Bruce appeared to see. Then he picks up his glass and drinks. Later in the evening, after the food is mostly gone and the conversation has moved through technique into other things, Bolo asks Bruce why he had come to the Federation demonstration without telling anyone, why he had chosen that event specifically. Bruce smiles. He says he had a feeling about it. He says he had watched Bolo train before, had seen the talent, had understood what Bolo could become. He says he also understood that Bolo had spent his career being the most physically formidable person in every room he entered, and that this had built something in him that needed testing. He says he had wanted Bolo to meet that testing in front of people who were qualified to understand what they were watching, so that what happened would land correctly rather than being distorted by an audience that might misread it. Bolo listens to this carefully. He asks Bruce whether he had known what would happen, whether he had known Bolo would take the microphone and issue the challenge. Bruce says he had expected it. He says Bolo always takes the microphone when a microphone is available. He says this as an observation rather than a criticism, the observation of someone who has watched a person carefully and understands their patterns. Bolo laughs. It is the first time he has laughed since the demonstration floor, and it is a real laugh, the laughter of someone who has been told an accurate and slightly unflattering truth about themselves by someone they trust. The three men talk until the restaurant closes. The conversation covers training methodology and filmmaking and the specific problems of demonstrating genuine technique to an audience that lacks the context to interpret it correctly. Bruce talks about what he is trying to do in his films, which is not to show choreography but to show real technique in a way that the camera can render honestly, which requires the technique to be genuinely real first. Bolo talks about the gap between what bodybuilding produces and what functional martial arts conditioning produces and the tension between them in his own training. Chuck talks about the specific problem of maintaining genuine martial arts development while also maintaining a film career, which has different requirements and different incentives and pulls in directions that require constant conscious management. The conversation is the kind that happens between people who share a serious subject and have found themselves in a context where the usual social performances are unnecessary. It is direct and specific and occasionally uncomfortable and completely worth having. 8 months later, Bruce Lee is gone, 32 years old. July 1973, the world receives this in waves, the way it receives things that are genuinely impossible to believe at first. The first wave is disbelief, the second is grief. The third, which takes longer, is the gradual understanding of the scale of what has been lost, which is something that people are still measuring decades later. The funeral is in Hong Kong. Bolo Yeung is there. Chuck Norris is there, having flown from Los Angeles. They sit 2 rows apart in a small chapel in Kowloon. They acknowledge each other across the distance between their seats with the nod of people who have something significant in common and who understand that the significance does not require words in this particular moment. Neither of them speaks about the October evening in the restaurant on Nathan Road, or about the afternoon in the Federation Building, or about the 10 seconds on the demonstration floor. There is nothing to say about it that the silence between them does not already carry more, completely. In the years that follow, Bolo Yeung becomes an international figure. Enter the Dragon, which was already filmed before Bruce died, and which is released 2 months after his death, introduces Bolo to the world as something other than Hong Kong's bodybuilding champion. He makes dozens more films. He is asked about Bruce Lee in nearly every interview he gives for the rest of his career, and he answers these questions with the patience and warmth of someone who loved his subject and is willing to keep explaining it to people who are only beginning to understand it. He is rarely asked about the Federation demonstration because the people who were there did not speak about it publicly. The story lived in the Kowloon martial arts community, passed between instructors and senior students in the specific way that teaching stories pass, from the people who understand their point to the younger people who need to learn it. When Bolos is asked about it in later years, usually by someone who heard the story through that informal network and wants to hear the primary account, he answers thoughtfully. He says that he was young and strong and had never been seriously tested, and that those 3 things together produce a specific kind of blindness that feels like clarity from the inside. He says that Bruce gave him something that afternoon that he could not have given himself, which was an accurate view of where his understanding ended. He says the gift was not the 10 seconds, though the 10 seconds were necessary. The gift was what he understood because of them. He says he has been different as a practitioner since that afternoon, more careful about what he assumes he knows, more willing to be wrong, more interested in the edge of his understanding than in the center of it. He says this is not a comfortable way to train, and it is not a comfortable way to live, but it is the most honest way he knows to keep growing, and that Bruce showed him the difference between the 2 kinds of living by putting his open palm against his throat on a Hong Kong demonstration floor and holding it there for 1 count. Chuck Norris, when asked about Hong Kong, says it was a wonderful experience. He says Bruce was a generous host. He says he met some remarkable practitioners there. When Bolo's name comes up specifically, he says Bolo was a fine fighter and a genuinely good man, and that they stayed in touch over the years. He does not tell the story because he does not feel it is his alone to tell. He keeps this rule for the rest of his career, and the people who know him well understand the rule and respect it. What happened on that demonstration floor was small by conventional measures. 10 seconds, one placement against a throat, no injury, no declared winner, a single open palm resting against a large man's neck for one count. By the measures that matter inside a serious martial arts community, where the question of what real fighting is has been the organizing question for centuries, it was something different. It was a lesson delivered with precision to someone who needed it and who was capable of receiving it if it was delivered correctly. Bruce Lee understood both of those things before he walked onto the floor, and the understanding is what made the 10 seconds possible. Not the technique, which was genuinely extraordinary, but the understanding of what this specific person needed and how to give it to them without breaking them. That is the complete story. 700 people in a building in Kowloon watched it happen. They carried it out into the world with them when the evening ended, and the world it entered was smaller than the world it deserved, which is the fate of most true things. But the people who received it passed it along, and it traveled in the way that teaching stories travel, and eventually it arrived here where it can be told the way it should be told, which is simply and directly and without anything added that was not already there on the floor that afternoon, when Bruce Lee answered a question with an open palm in 10 seconds and complete, unhurried certainty.